Hi, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
Did you guys miss us? This was our first break since we started.
We're back, baby.
We have a little addition. He's already being annoying. Welcome, Tots. Those are for the audio listeners. An adorable kitten. He's insane. I won't spend too much time talking about a kitten because honestly, who wants to hear that? But he started out, he was found in a storm drain. His name is Tater Tots. The first week I got him, just the cutest, friendliest, nicest thing ever. But apparently he was just malnutritioned and in a cage because he's nuts now. Like bad, like even crazier than when you were here a week ago. Oh my God, this cat wakes me up every morning attacking my hair. Like a full hour yesterday of just attacking my hair. And then I was so tired. I just didn't do anything. And he gave up and he just fell asleep like on my head pretty much. But I'm attacking my pen while I'm writing, dive bombing while I'm typing. I'm working in Google Docs and I had this, I was working 3 days in this Google Doc and had an assignment that had to get done. And I put my computer down on my couch and I came back and it was like I had a stroke on a keyboard, but he just kind of was just dive bombing my computer for 10 minutes. I was in the bathroom. I was like, come on, Todd. So I'm kitten proofing my apartment is what I've been doing the last couple of days.
Do you think I made him crazier? Because I was dancing with him a lot.
Oh, I did notice you dancing with him. I think you brought out the spirited side of him that cannot be put back in. But he's being a dog. He keeps going through the trash. I have a little trash can in the bathroom, and every day he knocks it over. And I don't. So the biggest thing with cats is you can't you got to worry about certain strings and stuff like that. So there's dental floss in that one, and he could eat it. It could get stuck in his intestines. So now I'm doing all this dog shit where I'm tying the bag or putting the trash can up top. I'm like, you're this big. You're not even 2 pounds, and I'm scared of you. But it's so funny how I was just all I want is a cat and all I want is a kitten. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot your whole life is consumed.
Yeah. I remember I was eating at your table and I had tights on and I was mid bite and then Todd's just claws up me. I don't know if he to get my food.
He just wanted to be close to you / eat your food.
Asking nicely. He was like, that's it, bitch. And he was like, ah, and I was like, ah. Just started screaming.
It was one of the most confusing, funniest moments. But in his defense, he didn't claw up you. That's just how he walks upward. If you Spider-Man has the sticky stuff, and that's how he's able to do it. But Tots doesn't have sticky stuff, so he has to use his nails.
What's the difference between that and clawing up me?
He doesn't know that it's hurting you. I don't think.
I don't want you to make excuses for him. The fact is, I don't think he was intentionally hurting me. I don't think he was take that motherfucker. I just think that he's just a cat that knew what he wanted. But
he wanted ramen. He wanted ramen now.
And I couldn't because I was mid bite. I couldn't do anything. I just went, fuck. And you're like, okay. All right, let's get him.
It's just that you screamed, and in my mind, I do have such mom qualities that I was waiting to turn around and you were on fire. But at first, all I see is you screaming while holding ramen, and I thought maybe it was too hot. But I was like, you're an adult, you know what to do in that situation. So, but I couldn't see it took me a second to realize that minutes earlier, Tots was by your feet and now he wasn't by your feet. So then I had to go below. But that was, I just think cinematically, that was so funny to see my friend screaming and not I was like, is she having a stroke? And then realizing that my cat's nail stabbing her under the table.
And I couldn't articulate anything. I was just
you had so much ramen in your mouth. But yeah, that's so of course we're sorry that we couldn't do our live show in New York.
Yeah, that sucked.
This is what I think this topic is what we were going to do for the live show, which I think would have been a fun live topic. But if you don't know, New York City I mean, the whole US, they showed a map that was like the like red zone of COVID, and it's just all of the United States. And I think since COVID started, we've never been united. And now we are, because
Now we're all red.
we're all red in the US. But New York especially is very COVID-y. So it's just the safer thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it was getting pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to just catch up without work, but
It was. I know what I noticed when we were like hanging out sometimes, I'd be like, oh my God, this would be so good for the podcast. And I was like, oh, this is just our friendship. I need to chill the fuck out. Because sometimes we'd be talking and I'd be like, oh my God, this is so funny. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we started the podcast, because this is who we are.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
How's being back in the UK? Is UK like really bad with COVID right now?
I feel like it's not as bad as the US, maybe because more people here are like vaccinated, but
yeah,
like they're not shutting anything down, but people are still canceling stuff. So it's kind of like how it is there. So it's like, we're not going to give you any furlough money.
Yeah.
We're just gonna, you do you, but be safe. So I don't know, a lot of people are working from home, so it's been really empty out and about, because a lot of people are working from home. I bet like nobody's really started yet.
Have you done shows since you've been back?
Yeah, I was at Top Secret and packed. Absolutely packed.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, the Cellar, which is always packed, like they have 3 venues and probably 3 shows a night, and always sold out. I mean, I'm doing shows for 20 people. I mean, there was a couple like moderately well attended shows, but it's the streets look desolate. Like I'll be walking to a spot that's like 11 p.m. The West Village is desolate.
Yeah.
Like you would think it was like, 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it is like spooky. And some of that might be the holidays in the sense that people went away, but I think people are staying away the same way that they, at least rich people, when they have an option to stay somewhere else, are staying away from the city again.
Yeah, that's nuts. You're cutting out a little bit, so I don't know if that's my internet or not, but actually let me just double check my internet.
You want to get into announcements?
Yeah.
Yay! Thank you to all our Patreons, everybody that supports us. We are beyond grateful. And it's been a year and a half, and you guys have stuck with us. If you don't know, and you would like to support us, we give out early access to episodes. We have weekly bonus episodes. We have monthly bonus episodes. You can get stickers. You can become a Google guest. You can control our Googles, which is like you tell us what to Google, and then we research it. I'm recording. Remember this? Remember interruptions by a cat? So thank you to everybody that does support us. And if you do, you can go to patreon.com /2nondoctors and for as little as $3 you could be supporting our podcast.
Yeah. And you can follow us on the socials. We're on Instagram at 2nondrs and Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at 2non-doctors. And if you're feeling kind, you can leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. 5-star review helps us out a lot. Although I've this probably doesn't help our cause, but I've read that actually doesn't help the algorithm just to have 5-star reviews.
To only have 5-star reviews,
or just the reviews don't matter. I don't know, but it mattered to us. It changes our lives.
I will say this. I don't know if he is attacking me. When someone asks me to do their podcast, I go to see how many reviews they have, because that gives me a little bit of a barometer of how many listeners they have.
Yeah.
Which not always accurate, especially because we have a fair amount of people that listen to us on YouTube, and there's not even just like a divide. There's like everything's broken down. Some people listen on Google Play. Like it really is the only place you can give a review is Apple Podcasts. Yet we have people that listen across many different platforms. But it does give me a little bit of like, do people really listen to your podcast? So I think it at least gives us some legitimacy, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can actually leave a star rating on Spotify now. I don't think you can leave a written review, but they do have star ratings. So yeah,
we'll do that too.
Yeah.
Take a second and support us by just giving us stars.
Yes,
all
please.
the stars you want. And then, oh, God damn it. Podcasting with a cat. Come on, I'm busy. Remember this, guys? Okay. So, personal announcements. I'm touring at the end of January. You can see me in LA, Oxnard, Irvine. In February, I'll be in Raleigh on Valentine's Day, then Charlotte, hopefully Europe. I had a bunch of Europe dates. I'm going to find out soon if that's still happening. So I'll hold off on that. And then later in the year or in the spring, I'm in Boston, a bunch of dates in Michigan. And in the summer, I'm in Atlanta again. What about you, Maria?
Yeah. I have Brighton and London dates, mostly London. I haven't put them up and I don't know what they are off the top of my head.
We're back.
Just go to shows in London and you might catch me.
We're back, organized and back. Awesome. Okay, but we'll keep you up to date. And are you ready for fan mail?
Yeah. This is from Katie. She says, Liz and Maria, I have listened to every episode of Two Non-Doctors, and it is the podcast that I look forward to the most each week. Aw. Spotify Wrap told me it was my number 3, but I know the truth. Plus, I've heard Spotify hasn't been the greatest to you in other ways. Bummed to hear that. I was so excited to see an episode on marathoning. Knowing Liz is a runner, I've been waiting for this one. Usually I listen to your podcast as a fellow non-expert, but this time I could actually call myself an expert, and it was so fun. I have my own online marathon coaching business, Forward Focus Running, and I'm also a professional marathoner competing in both the 2016 and 2020 Olympic marathon trials. Whoa.
I know.
That's
Crazy.
awesome. I live within a very niche running world, and the majority of my friends are avid runners. The athletes that I coach are striving to get into marathons like NYC and Boston. Sometimes I forget how ridiculous marathon running sounds, and the fact that these races are so competitive to get into is pretty funny when you look at it from a distance, pun intended. Maria asked why anyone would want to compete in marathons, stating that there are better ways to get high than running. She put a laughy face there. I just wanted to quickly share a few other reasons so maybe Maria can be convinced. I doubt it, but let's see. First, the friendships you build through running are pretty awesome. I meet with training buddies almost every day. Since people aren't looking into each other's faces when running, they feel more inclined to have more intimate conversations. Oh, that's interesting.
You know, she wrote that, and when I read it, I was like, yeah, because me and my running buddy, Irene, we call it like therapy, because at this point, and we became friends through running. She was the girlfriend of a comic I knew very well at the time. And then they were married and now they're divorced. So, and I don't even talk to him. So I went through like the full like ringer of the status of her relationship through running. And we became friends literally just side by side. And like, there's something meditative about running, but they're like, she said, as soon as she said it, you're not looking into someone's eye. And it really, I mean, she's one of the most open people I'm with, like emotionally because of that. And I didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Runners also share challenging workouts, jogs through brutal weather, and goals which help build a special bond. Second, running really helped my self-confidence. I started running for my middle school team as a shy and afraid kid. I hid the school sports forms from my parents, so my health records were submitted late and I had to miss the first few practices. The sense of accomplishment through running helps me break out of my shell. I gained confidence in my relationships, my body, and my self-worth, enough so to eventually start my own business doing what I love. I've seen many of the athletes that I coach build confidence through running that has helped them transform unrelated aspects of their lives. Also, I want to share that marathoning doesn't make you a runner. It's really cool to compete in shorter events like 5Ks too. I have plenty of friends who get paid to run who have never run a marathon because they specialize in shorter events. Oh, maybe that's something I could look into.
Sorry, finish what you were saying.
Oh, I was just going to continue reading. Do you want to add to it?
No, I was just going to say, like, that's also a very valid point that, like, I got into the longer distance running. Keep in mind, I started with shorter distance. I was like competitive, I think in the 100K, some dash. I don't know. I can't remember how far it was, but something that was quick. And I was horrible. And I thought I would be good because I went from gymnastics and doing vault, and you have to be really fast, only to find out I am not fast. But I discovered that I was better at endurance. Not that I'm like amazing or anything, but like I enjoyed it more. And also just not stopping was my strong suit. So I think the other aspect of it is that when I lived with Carmen Lynch, we started doing 5Ks in the park and doing these like races. And that's where she got into it. She would see me running and she was never like, I want to do marathon. She was always like, oh, let's do races together. So I also think most programs start with like a couch to 5K kind of thing. But actually, I think smaller goals and smaller races are a much better way to make a runner than this thing that's become kind of almost kitschy at this point. Which is fine. I mean, I love marathons and it's my thing, but I can understand why somebody would be like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone who goes out and runs is a runner, and there's a lot to be accomplished in shorter events too. And finally, I am curious to know if Liz appreciates any of the professional runners that compete in the marathons that she runs or knows that they exist. As pro runners, we are working toward connecting with amateur athletes more and sharing our stories via social media to help to build up recognition in our sport. It would be cool to hear her perspective on this. Amateur athletes often follow pros in other sports, and we want to become more of a thing in running too. We want that to become more of a thing in running too. Anyway, thanks for a fun episode. It was great. Oh,
First of all, I think we're honored, especially because when somebody actually, like, whenever we actually have a doctor and we talk about something, they're like, I really enjoyed that. And we're like, you did?
really?
So to talk about marathons and have somebody that's their whole life be like, that was really good. And we're like, was it?
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is I really love I'm somebody that loves the history of stuff. So when I got into running, I was like, I never actually read the book, but I read a bunch of articles about the guy that ended up breaking the 4K mile. I mean, the 4-minute mile. So it was known forever, like it was believed that humans couldn't run a mile faster than 4 minutes. Nobody had ever done it. It couldn't be done. And then I forget when, I want to say the 60s, but I could be butchering this. You can correct us, Katie. But at some point, this man broke it and was able to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And as soon as he did it, all of a sudden it started getting broken like every other week, because as soon as people knew it could be done, they pushed themselves and they could do it. So it actually, like, there's stuff like that, or like when we talked about it in our episode, the fact that women couldn't run marathons, they thought they would like fall apart and have mental breakdown, like whatever they thought, like women's bodies would just crumble doing a marathon. So they didn't let women run marathons forever. So like, I love the history. And then of course, when the Olympics happens, I'm watching gymnastics, I'm watching running events. I think for me personally, I'm not somebody that, I'm not a big fangirl. Like even when I listen to music, I couldn't tell you half the time what the name of the band is. And if I know the name, I definitely don't know what they look like. I don't really see live concerts. So I'm not the right person that, I don't want to say idolizes or like is become like a fan person, but I do care. Like when I run, if I do a marathon, the first thing I check is to see how fast the pro athletes did it, mostly to make myself feel bad, I think, where it's just like, it took me 5 hours and the pro did it in like 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I'm just like, whatever, Barbara, like no one cares. But I don't think I care in like a 15% level, but I think that's mostly my personality. I'm sure there's tons of people. And I think weirdly enough, and I don't know what that is, but I know more short distance runners, like people like the fastest woman kind of stuff, as opposed to who did the fastest marathon. As somebody that runs marathons, I don't know what that is. Maybe because they get more press, which is pretty much Katie's point. But yeah, I pay attention when I run that specific race, who were the people that were like the stars of that race. You have to qualify to run certain marathons, like the Boston Marathon. And I was really slow at the time when I was really into marathons. And even as a 75-year-old woman, I still wasn't fast enough. Like my time still wouldn't qualify for the Boston Marathon. So I think in some ways it's a passion for me, but I've never really gotten much better. I think over time it just becomes a hobby, and I've lost I don't really read about running the way I did. Like I read probably like 15 books about running, how to run better, people that do run, the history of running, and I don't really do that anymore. So I think some of my passion, while I still love it and it's still a part of my life, is not there.
Well, like I'm curious, like what you have to do to get better at running besides running. Is there Is there any other sort of training? Like I did this contemporary dance class last night, which I loved, but the flexibility and how high you can get your leg and like being able to keep it up and stuff and like having a strong core. Flexibility was a big thing for me. So I asked this girl, I was talking to this girl after class and she was like, I was like, are you a dancer? And she was like, no, I've just been coming here for like 10 years. And I was like, oh, well, like, have you found that you've gotten more flexible over that time? She was like, no. And I was like, shit. But she was like, but you can work at it. So if I were like, if I made it a goal to be more flexible, like if I want to do the splits by the end of the year, I would be able to do that if I constantly worked at it every day.
So that's what I was going to say. The biggest, and a lot of what you're asking, I learned from being a gymnast for 11 years. You are not going to get, when you do something that's a class, whether it's every day or a couple days a week, you're limited by how much time. An hour a day isn't enough. And even an hour, you know what I mean? So like when I was a gymnast, I was practicing 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. And then they would give you almost like homework, like while you're watching TV, you should be in a straddle. Like,
Yeah.
so the truth of the matter is that if your goal is to do a split, you should be doing it throughout the day. And there should be times where you're literally in a split and you're like, if you have to hold yourself up because it's too painful to like let gravity, you would find more and more times to let gravity and just sit with, even if it's just 10 seconds where your hands are up and you're just like, this is the most painful thing I've ever done. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to have a tiny Russian woman sit on my butt and put all her pressure on it as I'm being like, oh God, like, please, like literally begging for my life. I was just like, you're breaking my legs apart. So I don't know, maybe have a roommate sit on you. But the truth of the matter is that growth cannot just happen if you're doing, you have to change it up, but B, you're going to have to do stuff outside of it. And I would say this with running, again, Katie, the better person to ask, but when I wanted to get faster, there were different programs that I looked for online. And then you kind of have to mix it up. So even if you're doing a race that has 0 hills, by doing hill training, you're building up muscle so that when there's no hills, you're just faster on flat land. You know, for long distance, and it's also the difference between, you don't want to bulk up too much. Like right now I'm doing CrossFit, which would be the worst thing you could do as a runner because you don't want to bulk up. To have more muscle is to be carrying more, and it's only going to slow you down. That's why marathon runners are much skinnier and they have much leaner muscle, as opposed to if you look at like runners that are doing quick races, their legs are huge. Like they're all muscle. Like you can, you know what I mean? They look like action figures. So whatever your goal is distance wise, but then also it's doing different types of training to just be stronger so that, and then what's even more interesting is that they always said that biking helps running, but running doesn't necessarily help biking. So doing different types of cross training that are going to help build muscles, but it is a little bit just running more, but like running with intent. Like, you know, I might do, what do you call it? Intermittent training. You know what I mean? Like run for a minute.
And walk.
Yeah. Like I might do that as a way to kind of build up endurance, but you really are like building up endurance. And then also I've gotten faster by running more. Like it is kind of silly, but it's like with intent and whenever I've had like, okay, today I'm running 3 miles and the goal is to be doing it at a little under 10-minute pace, or, you know, today I'm going to run 10 miles, but it's at a 12-minute pace. Like it's a little more kind of calculated, but I think the same thing could be with yoga, where if your goal is to have to be able to do a full split, you would measure it literally by inches under your legs. And you'd be like, okay, if I'm 2 inches above the ground, I'm going to push myself down and I'm going to hold it for 30 seconds and doing it over. But like, it really is doing it.
Yeah, it's
every
funny
day.
because I've been doing yoga for years, but I don't think like I've gotten all that much more flexible. I mean, I'm pretty flexible, but not like nothing like full splits flexible. And it's just like, I'm kind of like, well, I've been doing it for so long. Why haven't I gotten more flexible? But I guess the intent wasn't there. Like if I want to do the splits, then I have to like intentionally like get into these poses and do everything you just said, rather than just keep like doing it one time within an hour, 4 times a week.
Also, you don't always do the same thing every class, but like, so my dream, and I bought the bars, you saw them at my place and I stopped doing it. But my dream is to be able to go back into a press handstand. So I can still do a handstand. And truthfully, my hips are too tight to do the straddle, and I'm not strong enough to press myself up. So it's like, not only am I not flexible enough, but I'm also not strong enough to those things. So you would break that piece up, both the lifting your legs and probably doing the splits while watching TV again. Then also the bars are supposed to help me get that muscle to hold myself up. And then I have to practice trying to push up from the floor. It's like I have to break up this thing into like 7 different things and work on each thing. And I was doing it a couple of years ago, and that's why I have those bars and I stopped. But my dream, and I'll see it on like line sometimes, my dream is to be strong enough as I was when I was a kid to push up from the ground, straddle up into a handstand, and then that's how I'm going to get a boyfriend. That was my logic 3 years ago. I'm sure it was my logic as an 11-year-old too. So
yeah. It's not a bad way. It's just not the most efficient.
Yeah, no, it's there's got to be better ways. Maybe I can improve my personality. Anyway, thanks, Katie. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay, Googles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I Googled, do you need the cotton in the pill bottle?
Sorry.
It's in my way. It's in my way. I hate it. Actually, so the answer is no. And if anything, it hurts your pills. Like,
does it?
Yeah. So it was originally put into pill bottles because like back in the day, pills would break. So that to keep them from shifting around and breaking, they'd put the cotton in there so you knew like what dosage, like you had one pill intact. Otherwise, everything's broken and you don't know what you're taking. But then in the 80s, like pills started getting coated so that you didn't need the cotton anymore, but they kept it in because people expected to find the cotton in the pill bottle. Like it would be too weird to see it without, I don't know, but that's why they kept it in. And actually the cotton can draw in moisture and then like lower the effectiveness of the pill.
That's why they put those little silica gel packets in it now. Like most of mine have the cotton in it and the little silica.
Well, you don't need the cotton at all. So I would toss all of it.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it weird that like somebody keeps it? There's some things that we keep doing because people expect it and would be freaked out. But it's like, I mean, that's almost like half the reason the earth is exploding. Like there's so much cotton that doesn't need to be used. Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I didn't even think it had a purpose. I honestly, my first thought was that it was just so that you didn't hear the like clink, 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 clink. Like
really, like somebody with misophonia designed it.
Just like a guy in a truck that's just annoyed because all the pills are like ding, 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 ding.
I hate delivering pills. It's pill delivery Tuesday, and it gives me a headache.
Yeah. And he's like, thank God I have an Advil truck.
That's why they spent like millions on cotton for pill bottles, is so the truck drivers don't get annoyed.
Yeah, and they're such an important part of our economy, which we've learned this year.
Yeah, I thought it was to keep them fresh. Like I thought you needed it to like keep them potent.
And really, they're doing the opposite.
Yeah,
I feel like we learned a lot.
Yay!
What a great Google. Mine's silly and pretty much only affects maybe us and like 2 other curly haired people. Why are my curls limp and less curly? This is just dirty. Like this doesn't apply. But my hair looked incredible. I'm not even joking. Like a month ago, my hair was every day perfect. Like I literally was like, I figured it out. I'm the best. But I don't know, something happened a couple weeks ago where like it wasn't curling as much, and like it was really like bumming me out. Like, and we've talked about curls for about 1.5 years, but it was like my hair never looked this shitty before, and I didn't understand because I felt like I was doing everything I always do. So I Googled this, and what's fascinating is I've probably been being shitty to my hair all along, and maybe I only noticed it more because my hair's short and it was curling much better than it, like when my hair was kind of shitty and it was long, I just assumed I needed a haircut, or that like it was just too long and it was weighing down the curls. But when it was short, it made me actually pay attention to when it went like kind of limp and shitty. And apparently I've been doing the wrong thing to my hair for years. So it says if curls feel limp, flat, or won't curl the way they used to, it's most likely that you're suffering from moisture overload. And this means that you have too much moisture in your hair, which needs to be balanced out. And they basically say like what a complete opposite thing that every curly hair girl has heard. But really what they're saying is that, and I'll read the rest of it. Moisture overload refers to the imbalance between protein levels and moisture level in your hair. Moisture overload particularly affects high porosity. Is that the right way of saying that? Porosity
Sure,
hair?
yeah.
And can cause it to look limp, stringy, and greasy. So if you overhydrate, it loses the protein structure and it becomes just kind of limp and stretchy. And this could be caused by washing your hair too often, over conditioning, leaving hair wet for hours or overnight, and the overuse of deep conditioner, and then never using protein products. I'm a culprit of every single one of those. Every single thing you're not supposed to do, I have done, and a lot. So the fix was clarifying, which is, I use, and they say this often happens to people that do the curly haired method, which it was an episode probably like a year ago. So the first thing is to clarify. There's certain clarifying shampoos. You could just use a sulfate shampoo, which I don't use sulfates. Then there's protein products, which I ended up buying and it's all the stuff they recommended was kind of some of the stuff I use and some of the stuff that it's of the brand I like, which is Shea Moisture. So protein products. And then the last thing I haven't done, which is use oils. I don't like using oils because my hair is actually naturally very thin. But I did the clarifying. They had like a apple cider vinegar rinse that I did. There's a rice rinse that I haven't done. And then I bought all the protein products. I've even stopped washing because what I normally do is I wash my hair maybe twice a week, but I do a co-wash, which is just you put conditioner in your hair. And now I'm doing it where like my hair gets wet, but I don't do anything, which I could not have done if my hair was long. I can only do because it's short. But then I started using the protein products, and honestly, within I would say a week of doing everything, I'm back to about my hair being about 90% of what it was before.
Okay. Um, I guess I take issue with this because it's just like suddenly your hair didn't work anymore. It wasn't like over time your hair was stopped being limp and curly. So like I'm glad it's worked out. And I've heard that you need a balance between conditioning and protein. And like if you do too much protein products, it'll go limp again. And I guess it's the same for over conditioning. But like, I mean, I
So
wash my hair every day with shampoo, sometimes twice a day. Like
yeah.
I shampoo the fuck out of my hair, but maybe that's why I can take all the conditioner I put in it.
But we have very different curls. I mean, you have you have thick curls. Like you have Egyptian curly hair, and I have like Italian white girl curly hair. And like, even like, remember when we used to talk when we first were friends about what straighteners, and you couldn't use the same straightener I did because you need something that's, I don't know, just does a better job. Like I could use a shitty straightener and it'll straighten my hair. It's just thinner. And that's one of the things I don't like about my hair is that like I could have a perfect curl and then by the end of the night it just looks like shit. So I think in general, the thickness of it and maybe the porosity, we might have different porosity, but I was over conditioning my hair and I now know that. I thought you couldn't go wrong.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can over condition your hair, of course. But like that's why curly hair fucking sucks. It's like
Yeah.
everything. You have to talk to it a certain way. Like you just gotta tiptoe around this hair. It's
Oh,
annoying.
dude, I'm like playing Mozart to it. I'm
Yeah.
like reading books to it. Like I'm honestly like I've had plants that are less fickle than it, but but the truth of the matter is that I've done the work in the sense that we've experimented with every hair product you can think of. I was doing the curly hair. Like I've done all, but I've never like, I don't know, I've never done this kind of research before. I've just never heard of that before. And I'm somebody that like was conditioning the fuck out of my hair because I was like, mostly because I couldn't brush it. Like I couldn't, it was just all knots.
When I destroyed it by going blonde, they like I was told to use coconut oil in my hair, not for the moisture, but for the protein. I
For the
think, or
protein.
maybe, yeah. So that it can like just get strong again, but not to use it too much because that would have been too much protein. I don't know. Yeah, it's like I said, it's fickle and it's annoying. I'm glad your hair is back.
Thank you. This is
I'm
not
back,
the
bitch.
example.
No,
'Cause
it's not. It's a very bad time to do this.
I've, I've done nothing with it for days. Okay, let's get personal.
Yeah.
Um, what did you learn about yourself this past year?
See, like, I don't know. I what past
It's
year? Like
somebody
what,
that
like,
journals. You gave me that Fox journal every day. You write in it. How do you not know?
well, that's one thing I learned about myself is I love a fucking productivity planner. Oh man. Oh, I love planning it out. And I got more done, writing shit down, writing goals down. Um, but like I learned, I don't know if it, but I might have learned it in 2020. Like I learned I like having time to myself. I like not having to go out and do shit all the time. That's a, you know, I liked lockdown. Learned that about myself. I would have thought like if the government grounded me, I'd have been pissed off about it, but I was like, thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, I've been waiting for this kind of discipline. I was going out every night.
Yeah. I also learned that I have different goals that steer away from stand up, that and I think it kind of scares me because I would need to focus on those goals whilst not focusing on stand up. So it's like like I'm still doing stand up. I'm afraid to leave it
Yeah.
to try these other goals out, but like I have to do it or it's going to be one of this is why I started stand up. It's like if I don't, I was so scared of stand up, but if I don't do it, then I'm always going to be that person that didn't try. And like what's the saying? It's always like not doing it is more painful than like the failure of doing it.
Yeah.
Something like that. I got to make some like I don't know if I have to make difficult choices, but like I have to remember that just because I pursue something else creatively doesn't mean that like my stand-up career is over.
Or that I think a lot of times when people do something for a long time and then they shift gears, that somehow they wasted their time before or like it was for nothing. And I don't think that's true at all. I think, if anything, everything you've done with stand up is why you are where you are and you build off it. And the reason you're good at the next thing you do is because of your experience with
Oh yeah,
stand
no,
up.
I never thought stand-up was a waste of time at all. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like leave it completely. I want to come back to it and keep building, but I don't have a very straight, I feel like you have a very straight path with stand-up. And I have
Yeah.
a very like, oh, what's over here? It's kind of how I am in real life.
Yeah.
You're like New York all the way for the rest of my life. And I'm like, New York, well, what's LA like? Let's see what London's like. Like I'm all over the place. And you're like straight and through.
Well, if you tell me we're going to a restaurant and we start walking towards it, I'm assuming we're eating at that restaurant. But the amount of times we never make it to that restaurant because we see a better restaurant or something that looks cuter on the way. And then you have to be like, is this okay? And I was like, I wasn't, you made me seem like it was like we were going there. So I thought we were, but now
Yeah.
we're at this little cafe.
All my plans are like arbitrary. All my plans are like just a place to get me walking in a direction. And then whatever I come up upon along the way is the real, it's the real pursuit.
um, it's funny. I would say the first thing I thought of is just how important being alone is to me.
Mm.
I think I knew that, but I don't think I knew to what extent. It's so important to me. And I feel so much better. Like I just feel like there's this great story that I'm going to butcher about a performer that like spent the whole day like doing all this stuff and then gets on stage. He's in front of thousands of people and his thought is, oh, to be alone. You know what I mean? Like this is his space. And in some ways, as somebody that's a performer, and you know, I'm on the subway, but I'm by myself. I have my little headphones on. I'm reading a book. I'm in a cocoon. You know, I'm at a club. Sometimes I'm talking to my friends. Sometimes I'm just getting ready for my set. I'm on stage. Like there's these moments where I'm surrounded by people, but I'm still like in my cocoon. But I in some ways have convinced myself that like I'm this lone person that doesn't, that like is around people but doesn't really need people, but like quietness, like just, I guess it's like uninterrupted alone time. Like yesterday I had, other than moving my car, I had nothing to do. I mean, I had stuff I had to get done, but I didn't have to meet anybody. And I did that purposely because like I had something that had to get done by Monday and I gave myself extra time just in case I didn't. And it just felt nice. I had no shows. I didn't plan to go to the gym. I literally, and it's like, I need those days. And I don't think I've ever given myself like a meet no one, talk to no one, do nothing day and how important that is. And that's what the pandemic in general, but like these last 2 years have taught me.
Yeah, I've realized I need those days too. And like to the point where it's like, if I look at my calendar and there's nothing on and I'm trying to fit something in, I won't put it on that day because I'm like, that's my day of nothing.
Yeah.
If I put something, well, I was watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, and then Jeff Garland's character had like they were like, can you come in at 2? And he's like, that's the whole day. But more and more I need these days that are completely clear of anything that I have to do.
It's crazy to think of it. I've never given myself that. And the fact that I need it, maybe not every week, but I need it at least twice a month. And I do not give that to myself. And to have a day and there's nothing ever, which like in the middle of the pandemic was like, oh my God, I mean, that's why we started the podcast, just something to plan and work towards. And that's why I was even like initiated us taking a break, because I was getting to the point with stand up being back full-fledged, working on my script and all that other stuff. And this, I was like, oh my God, not only do I have no non-doing anything days, my to-do list every day, I'm like never getting anything done. Like every day I'm moving 17 things to the next day. So now it's like whatever is supposed to be on Wednesday plus everything I was supposed to do Tuesday. I was just feeling like I couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I learned. And then we talked about it in a previous episode, but I've always been anti-cooking. Just, I hate it. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I don't know why anybody would enjoy it. And I went from doing it with my roommate and just it being a nice thing to do with somebody else to now cooking by myself most days. And I cooked for you when you were here. And I don't think I'm 180, because I'm still like, if I cannot cook, I would love to not cook, but I'm starting to see why it's like relaxing and nurturing. And even when I'm doing the dishes, like I've made 80 dishes, I don't find myself angry. I found myself like proud. Like I ate like a full meal that I cooked, and I like nurtured my body like this. Like, I'm like, am I maturing? I hate this. Like,
yeah.
But I find myself enjoying the whole process, from cooking it to eating it to cleaning up after it and doing it the next day.
Yeah, it's very meditative, and it's very like, because you're all consumed. You're figuring out what you have to do. You have tasks, but you're all in. It's rare that you might be talking to somebody, I guess, if it's social, but like, but when you're cooking for yourself by yourself, you're just there with yourself.
Yeah, I've grown to really enjoy it, and then also feel really proud as somebody that has always loved your cooking. The fact that I cooked for you and you didn't throw it against the wall, I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is Blue Apron though. Like I want, next time I come, I want you to be cooking your own shit.
But this is the thing is I have cooked my own stuff. I think what I've also learned is I don't like planning. I really hate planning. And I think it becomes decision fatigue. You know how like they said like Steve Jobs would wear the same thing every day, or like there's certain people, almost like a cartoon, would wear the same thing every day. Yeah. And it's because they make so many decisions in a day. They don't want to make this decision. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to wear the same black jeans and black shirt every day. I think in some ways, there's so many creative things that I have to do. Deciding what I want to eat, I don't want it to be one of them. Finding this spice and going to 6 grocery stores, I don't want that to be one of them. So recipes, and I have made, I have taken recipes I liked and gone shopping and gotten the stuff. But I think in this moment, and the dream is to never need a recipe. I would like to get to that place. When I was paleo, I got recipes where I almost didn't need the recipe book. I don't know if I'll be there anytime soon. And I'm trying to also just be grateful for where I am right now, because I never thought I would be here.
Well, that's a different thing. If you don't want to like bother making the decisions and finding the ingredients and stuff, then not having the confidence to go off book.
Yeah. Topic?
Yeah.
Our topic this week is living to 100, which is, I mean, a little sad. We picked it out a couple of weeks ago. We were supposed to do it for our live episode. And then Betty White, 2 weeks shy of living to 100, which is like, I mean, she lived a long, lovely life, but that would have been a beautiful milestone for her. And that was like, I don't know, I find it to be very funny because nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. And there's people that, like, when they're like stereotypical, I'm just like, yeah. But then when they're very specific, you're just like, you fucking psychopath. Like, how do you believe?
What do you mean? Like they have specific like rules for living to 100?
So basically, people love this topic. There's so many like documentaries and kitschy articles every year. Like this one woman is, I have to find it, but she's like in her hundreds, and she eats 9 gin soaked raisins every morning. And that was her tip. And you're like,
Ew.
that gross. Like, I'm not doing that. I don't even drink apple cider vinegar and water, which you're supposed to do every morning because it's disgusting. Why would I do this? Like, maybe it's like a fun way to get drunk. I was just like, just have gin gummies or something. But it's so specific that, one, how did you get there? 2, I guess, but what?
Why was that the thing that you decided was the secret? Like,
Yeah. And how is it not just your cork and then you just happen to live to 110? Like this, like A plus B has to equal C is such faulty logic. But if you're 110, who's to tell you're wrong? But like, you know, they tell people don't smoke, you're going to die of lung cancer. But then there's somebody that's 90 that smoked every day and they're fine. So it's just like everybody's body's different. So that's why it's always so, and genetics has involved. A lot of what they say does involve diet. And that's, of course, it's weird how only now we're starting to talk about the importance of diet, but I don't know. I find this topic to be just so silly.
It's yeah, like I think everyone, I mean, and there's so many outliers and like people who just anomalies, I guess, like people who smoked and drank every day and like lived to be 110 and they're like, that's all you got to do. And you're like, I'm not sure that works for most people. So like it's almost like you have to look at like the cultures who generally have a ton of people turning over 100, because Betty White, like she loved junk food apparently. Like she loved hot dogs and like chips and I don't remember, but I remember it was a ton of those red vines. Absolute junk food person, but she also loved animals and she worked till the day she died. Like and like that's something that's like, I guess your brain stays active if you keep working.
A lot of them did say that, like even the ones that would tote weird health things, all of them said like there was a chess master that retired from chess at, I think, like 109, but he still read the news every day. He still emailed his friends and family, people that are active writers that are constantly writing blogs or books or stuff like that. The biggest thing is just, I think recently, the oldest woman in the world is a 119-year-old woman from Japan, named Kane Takaka. And she loved, like, they're so cute what they say, like these people love. They're just like, she loves fizzy drinks. And so she celebrated with a Coke or a Diet Coke, I can't remember. And she was basically her with a Coke and a peace sign. And I was like, I mean, I had a math teacher because I loved Coca-Cola.
Doesn't it feel like that, like she's like she's waiting to die? She's 119 and she's like, hopefully this does it. Peace out, bitches.
Yeah. I heard it's poison. But like, I remember my math teacher in high school, he would see a Coke on my desk and he'd pick it up and he goes, just so you know, this is poison. And I would laugh at him. And of course it is. And I wasn't listening, but it's poison. And here, this woman clearly loves soda.
Yeah, but she loves soda on her birthday, not she loves soda every morning and afternoon.
We don't know. They said she loves fizzy drinks. What does love equate? You have it every day?
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's why like she has it on her birthday. I have fizzy drinks on special occasions because I love fizzy drinks. That doesn't mean you have it every day.
That's a valuable point. I respect it. But she was born in 1903.
That's awesome.
So they basically say, you know, but what they did say about her, she loved puzzles and games. So back to like the active mind. Here's somebody that every day is doing some kind of puzzles and games and keeping their brain active, which I think is, out of all the ones that I read, that seems to be the most important.
I thought diet was the most important, and then like keeping your brain active, like working, and then like family and belongingness.
That's a good point. I mean, I think the struggle, because a lot of these, I read a lot of people like their big accomplishment, that sounds horrible, is that they lived through COVID. So they're like 105 and they overcame COVID at 100, which is like mind blowing. But a lot of them, like that was the thing that they couldn't have, like they couldn't see their family. They couldn't be as connected with their friends. So not to say that like what happens at the end of your life is affecting, but yes, I think that's incredibly important. And if anything, we learned because of COVID how many people didn't have that kind of third most important thing.
Sorry, it's just kind of like going off of my own like thought process about the sense of belonging. And I'm like, is that why in high school, like when you're like cut out of a group of friends, it's so devastating because it's like you're actually killing me.
I had a friend, somebody brought it up recently. I had a friend, like a friend dump when I was 17 and I was devastated. I would consider it like my first breakup. And it took me years to kind of consider it that way. But my dad was like trying to be helpful. And my dad would tell me stories about like getting broken up with. And I was like, Dad, it's not the same. That's a girl. You're a guy. This is my friend. But it was one of the biggest rejections I ever had because it was like one of my best friends and just out of nowhere, she was like, no, thank you. And I was depressed for, I don't know, probably 6 months and I couldn't figure it out. Like it was devastating.
Yeah.
And if you look at people's habits when they are depressed, when they are ostracized, like you're not really taking care of yourself if you don't feel like you have a sense of belonging.
Yeah, I'm not having a kale salad when I'm in bed all day. Like I feel like fish is the thing that you eat if you want to live forever.
I guess like it makes sense to me that the oldest woman is from Japan and thinking about their diet and what they eat. You know what I mean? So like that logically makes sense to me, but like also we're poisoning that's the other thing is what somebody ate in the 40s and 50s and 60s is so different. Even if we eat exactly their diet today, it's not the same. It's not the same food. That banana isn't a real banana anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's depressing, actually.
But it's
if I had like nuts and fish for the rest of my life, it's like, am I getting that? Like, what's that salmon that you're not supposed to eat? Just not the wild salmon, the other salmon. The farm raised salmon. Like, that's not going to be good for me. Like, I can't eat that for the rest of my life and then expect to live forever.
Or the fact that where did this salmon come from that is wild? Because if it's in poisoned water and you know, but I'm serious. Like the bananas that we're eating now is from a different breed of banana. Like it's that's where we are. Like even our produce, even if you're somebody that eats super clean, it's specifically in America, you're not eating the same stuff that you're like. I remember my dad told me he would have strawberries and they were just so sweet and amazing. And now they're bland. And it's because it's not.
Oh, dude, fruit from other countries. I just remember going to like Egypt and having a peach and I'm like, what is this? This is the most amazing thing I've ever had. And I've never tasted a peach like this before.
I had watermelon juice in Egypt and I think about it on most days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, even going from New York to LA, I was like, oh my God, this is what fruit's supposed to taste like. But yeah.
So, I mean, was there anything that jumped out at you that you were just like, oh, I've never heard that or thought about that before?
The sense of belonging thing. I was like, oh, that's huge. Because I always think like living to 100, like you have to physically take care of yourself. And I was like, well, I bet there's a lot of like emotional, because I mean, a lot of these communities, like what was it? Japan, Monaco, weirdly, but I think I was on AccuWeather website when it said that Monaco is one of the places that has the most people over 100. But like the Mediterranean diet and like the fish that Japanese people eat all contribute to like longevity, but also I bet they're from kind of communities that have communities, like people that have, like there was one thing I remember about Egypt was that all of my family lived in the same building basically. So you could just go up to your cousin's place and then they could come down to your place or whatever, but everybody was together. And it felt so different, like living in Ohio where none of my family, I mean, well, like I had one set of cousins in Ohio, but like generally, like it wasn't a big family thing. It wasn't a unit. And I think that having that sense of belonging really like struck me as something, like having that community of people.
Which makes even more sense with Japan, where like respecting your elders, taking care of your elders, like, you know what I mean? Keeping them in the home, like this, like you take care of your family kind of situation. Yeah. I mean, I think even just logically, what's the point of living if nobody cares if you're around?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's depressing. Why I have a blog.
This was actually kind of interesting. The health ministry said there was 86,510 people over 100. And that's an increase of about a little over 6,000 since last year. So, and then in general, we have more people over 100 than we ever have before. So even though like our diet has become shit, and I'm sure modern medicine is a huge part of that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's absolutely fascinating that we're increasing how many people live over 100.
Well, I would like to note that we did start this podcast about a year ago or almost 2 years ago. So I think that maybe we're contributing to people
Absolutely
living
if
longer.
only because of the community aspect. It's not because of any of the advice.
But I mean, the medical thing, 100%. It doesn't all come down to eating healthy and having.
Oh, of course. And it would also be interesting, and nobody ever talks about this. What is the financial stability of all these people? Are these all rich people? Are these, you know what I mean? Because your access to like a half of them that I read are from Toronto. That's
Really?
Yeah. I mean, this guy Mohammed and his wife, he's 110, she's 100. They live in Toronto. I think the chess guy was from Toronto. Like half of them are Canada. So like even just having access to medicine, but like how many old people are able to get there because they have access to healthcare and or are financially stable enough that they have a nurse that lives with them or whatever it is. I feel like they never talk about the financial benefits, which also comes down like your diet is affected by how much money you have. Like it's never really talked about how class can affect how long you live.
Yeah.
Or where you're living, because
look at the Queen.
Yeah. How old is the Queen?
I want to say like 93 or 99 or something. She's old as fuck.
Shit.
I think they're expecting her to go soon because like she's like sick, but I think I don't know, like the fact that we heard anything about her health, it means that because they'll keep it under wraps forever. So how old is the Queen?
You'll appreciate this. There's a woman named Agnes that's 111
95.
years. She's 85.
95.
95. Damn. Get it, girl. Agnes is 111 years old. She's from Jersey, and she drinks daily. She drinks a beer and whiskey. And
dude, if I were that old, I'd be lying to everyone. I'd be like, I smoke a joint every morning and every afternoon, laced with cocaine.
I do black tar heroin, and I'm 104. So, yeah, I mean, you got to take the risks to take, but
is where it's at.
But so, like, I mean, some of them are cute. This woman named Flossy, I didn't even know that could be a name. Her name's Flossy Dicky, by the way, and that's just that's a character in a book.
I love it.
That's ridiculous. 110. She's like, naps are key. My mom says that. She's like, naps. You just got to nap.
Yeah.
Really, you just become a cat. Like, yeah. What a dope life. A lot of people prayer. There's tons of people that pray. This is the other thing, is there's some people that eat healthy that die early, and there's some people that pray that die early. So it's just like it's so hard not to be like, what, God picked you?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Lucille, that she was the raisins soaked. She said prayer and then raisins, 9 gin raisins soaked that she eats every morning. But it was crazy though. Like she lived through the Spanish flu, 2 world wars, and COVID, and she's 105. What a badass. Yeah. Like, you eat your raisins. You eat your alcoholic raisins, lady.
That almost seems like her mother like made her eat raisins as a child, and she just kind of adapted to find a way that she would like it.
This nurse interviewed 1,300 people over 80, and the most common trait was upbeat, have a good sense of humor, and just see the positive in life. And it's like, well, that makes sense. Like we said before, like if you hate your life, what makes you want to get out of bed?
Oh yeah, that's what Betty White said. Stay positive. Like, focus on the positive things. It's easy to focus on the negative things.
Well, in general, like as somebody that's always been negative, and then somebody that talks to comics all the time, there's always going to be a wrench in your day. There's always going to be a wrench in your plans. There's always going to be something wrong always happens. So why are you fighting it? If you expect it in some ways, not in a like, it's going to happen, fuck my life, but like if you're just like, if you kind of roll literally with the punches and go, okay, how do I handle this better, or laugh about it? And I actually think being a comic and turning every bad thing that's ever happened to me in a joke, which then I perform, then I make money off of, has really helped me change my thought process. But it really does feel like everyone you talk, like even my grandfather is 89, I think. And he was just silly. Like whenever I'd be like, Grandpa, how old are you? He's like 17. Never looked better in my life. Like just
Yeah,
silly.
that's like when I looked for a place in LA and there wasn't any parking. I was like, so it's street parking, so that means I have to tack on another $300 to rent per month for
Exactly.
when I get a ticket for forgetting to, because like I knew it was going to happen. So just anticipate.
Yeah, just put it in the
It made me feel better about everything. Also, the NHS just subscribed comedy, or they're looking into like subscribing comedy to patients. And I thought it was gonna be like a Patch Adams situation, like they just paid for the guy to come in and make everyone laugh. But like, I think that they were gonna have the patients take comedy courses to learn to laugh at things that have been bothering them or their ailments.
Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. There are like I used to talk at like these like elderly groups. Like they would have you come in and like so I did one on Zoom like a month ago, but early like I would say like 10 years ago I used to go into this like elderly group and they would be assigned my stand up as homework. They would watch my stand
Oh
up
my
and then
God.
you would have a 90-year-old man that would be like, when you said you banged a guy, what did you mean by banged?
Oh shit.
And then you have to like describe slang to somebody and they'll be like, sex with strangers. That's funny.
Oh my God.
They were so cute. And it was never the like situation you thought it would be, but they genuinely wanted to be funny. Their goals were just to like, some of them were like to actually get on stage, but some of them they just wanted to be funnier and they always loved comedy. But like, life sucks. Like, how do you not, if you don't find joy in it, if you can't laugh about it, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But I really do think it's gin and laughter. I just,
That's it, everybody. Gin soaked raisins.
and
Listen to
laughter.
us and enjoy your long lives.
If I would say if you have anybody in your family that's like, I think over 85 is pretty, because they say, what is it? Like, it depends on each country, but I think for women, it's like 78 and for men, it's 72. That's the average kind of lifespan. So I would think anybody in their 80s or above knows some shit. So, if we have any 80-year-old listeners or you have people in your family or, like, I would love to know what their thing is, whether it's kooky or, something we brought up, but
Yeah.
tell us how to live to 100.
Yeah.
So where can they write to us, Maria?
Oh, it's a Gmail address, 2nondoctors@gmail.com. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And thanks guys so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.